Hello everybody and welcome to free UFC bet picks. We are here breaking down UFC Vegas 16, Hermansson versus Vettori. These are going to be our early predictions here after watching tons of tape. We will be doing our post-weigh-in video on Friday like normal with our final bets, parlays, daily fantasy advice, all that good stuff. So let's get into our next fight here. It is a heavyweight bout between Roman Dolidze and John Allan. Allan has an inch of height on Dolidze, but Dolidze has an inch of reach. On FanDuel, we've got Dolidze at -160 and Allan at +130. What are you thinking about this one?
This, I think, might be the fight of the night. These are both really good fighters. So similar. We talked about OSP and Jamal Hill having similar striking styles. This is like the most mirror image. We put a meme out today of Spider-Man pointing at Spider-Man. It was, Leon with COVID and Kamzat with COVID. Well, it could be like Dolidze striking and John Allan striking. They both just want to throw heavy counter overhands, and they're both freaking good at it. So we'll talk about their last couple fights and give you some meaningful, time-saving tape study here. In Roman Dolidze's last fight, we all saw it during the pandemic era. His UFC debut knocked out Khadis Ibragimov. Khadis, one of the worst fighters in UFC. I can't stand that guy. No longer a UFC fighter. So if you listen to any prediction videos that talk about a knee to ground and pound, it's because they don't know what they're effing talking about. Tapology says it's a knee to ground and pound. Well, if you're watching this, I hope to God you remember that Roman Dolidze caught him with a head kick, and it just happened to catch him on the knee instead of the shin. It's a head kick knockout to ground and pound, not a knee to ground and pound. So that's just a test. Just unsubscribe to anybody who doesn't know how Roman won his last fight. That was 18 months since his previous fight. He had a long layoff, and he had some USADA issues. That's another thing that these guys have in common. He had USADA issues. He had an injury, so he had 18 months off. We weren't sure, how he was going to look. He's making his UFC debut. He's 6-0, and he comes in and knocks out Khadis, who's not a great fighter, like I said, but he's a big 205er at least.
Yeah.
Roman was a slight favorite, -155. Roman was moving around outside the ring, octagon nicely. He's got good footwork and movement. He likes to counter, like I said. He's usually backing you up. I've never seen a fight where he's not beckoning and saying, come on. Like, this guy might be one of your favorite fighters Sunday morning. He's so exciting. He talks every round to his opponent. He taunts them. He beckons them to come in. And he gets guys like Pasternak, who has the height and reach on him and should not be getting sucked into a brawl with Roman. He gets these guys sucked into brawls with them. He's got great fight IQ, and he plays to his strengths. I like Roman a lot. Roman, he's an orthodox fighter, but he switches to southpaw sometimes. And, he'd been just peppering Khadis with those low kicks, leg kick, calf kicks, and, kind of like inside quad kicks. And when he threw that high kick, not a knee, when he threw that high kick, you could tell Khadis was just really expecting a low kick, and it caught him flush. Yeah. Great performance by Roman. Before that, he got a round 3 spinning back fist against, Mikhail Pasternak, who's a good fighter. He was 13-3. This is for the WWFC title. Again, Roman fights the same way every time. Low kicks and jabs and heavy overhand counters. So that's exactly what he was doing. He was talking so much that his mouthpiece actually fell out during this fight. Michael caught a nice jab, actually, that dropped Roman for a sec, but Roman popped right back up. That was round 1. Round 2 is just more of the same. He ends up dropping Michael with an overhand, that he'd been trying to line up for the previous 7 minutes. Pasternak's fishing for a leg and gets back up. Is a nice job by him. Not great top control by Roman. And, even between the second and third round, Roman's just talking to him. Not talking trash, just like, it's really exciting, kind of, I can't even think of a good comparison. There's nobody that I can think of that just nonstop talking and saying, it's not like Nate Diaz. Like, I can't think of anybody that just talked, I feel like I'm blanking on somebody super obvious. Put it in the comments if you guys can think of somebody, but he's just nonstop talking to his opponent saying, let's go, let's do this. Come on, bring it. Because he's trying to suck these guys into brawls when they shouldn't get sucked into brawls, and he knocks him out. He's really smart. So third round, so a lot of people, I've heard other experts, actually like my favorite expert, said, oh, he throws like a low kick and then spinning back fist. No, it was a teep that missed. He switches stance, he throws a teep that misses, and he uses that momentum to throw the spinning back fist. And, then like it put Pasternak almost out. He lands some vicious ground and pound, but only the first ground and pound punch puts him to sleep. And then there's 3 or 4 more that were just icing on the cake. I mean, that spinning back fist was really heavy, almost had Pasternak completely out. Really, really entertaining fight. Great performance by Roman against a taller, longer fighter who he had to get out of his game plan, and he did that. Before that, round 2, KO against Eder D'Souza. D'Souza was a good fighter. He was 15-4. Dolidze was a little bit different in this fight. He was actually holding D'Souza up against the cage for a while, fishing for a single leg. It wasn't there. He's kneeing him. He's just kneeing him up against the cage, which I like that a lot, but it's not normally what we see at a Dolidze. Once they get off the cage and they're in the middle striking, D'Souza had a reach advantage as well, and it shows. And Roman was actually, his striking didn't look great. He was having to really lunge forward. He's kind of chasing, and he was leaving his head up. D'Souza didn't capitalize on it, but it wasn't the jabbing, backing away, using height and reach. Even if he's shorter, he appears taller because he's bringing these guys towards him. It wasn't that. He was having to hunt this guy down, especially through the first round, and he's throwing whiffing overhands. Again, we don't see that in these last 2 fights from Roman. And he ends up going back to the cage control. He couldn't land on Eder D'Souza, and he puts him against the cage again. Round 2, he's flexing, he's pounding his chest, he's beckoning D'Souza to come on. He gets the leg kicks, beckoning him some more, and finally he starts fighting long, which is what we've said he does so well. He starts just putting out some pawing jabs. There's nothing on him. He's just putting out a pawing jab, like a range finding jab. He gets D'Souza to back up against the cage, and then he throws the heavy overhand right, which is what he's so good at, and it puts him out cold. So, some really good things there from Roman. It kind of showed, so that was 3 fights ago, it kind of showed his evolution, and now these last 2 fights, he doesn't advance forward. He doesn't whiff and throw lunging punches and leave his head up. He uses his technical striking. He fights like the taller fighter, even if he's not, and he gets these people to get out of their game. So, my gosh, I've said it 5 times now, but John Allan has such a similar style. So, John Allan's last fight was a unanimous decision win against Mike Rodriguez. He got turned to a no contest, not because of weed like we keep seeing, because of, tamoxifen, which is like an estrogen stabilizer, which is used to counteract the negative effects of steroids. Basically, it's proof that he's using steroids. There's a lot of unknowns in this fight for that reason. 3 fights ago, I'll go into it longer, but 3 fights ago he looked terrible. Last fight he looks amazing against slow Mike Rodriguez, who I like a lot. Some people have differing opinions on him, but Mike Rodriguez is a good UFC fighter, and he just absolutely put it on Mike Rodriguez, Allan did. So was it because of PEDs? Yes, I think so. So there's just so many unknowns in this fight. I really just want to, Dolidze, who I think's going to win, he's only minus 160, minus 170 or whatever. Like, that seems like an attractive little 4th or 5th leg of a parlay. You don't want to lead with that. There's other folks that I would lead with, right? But I just, as much as I hate to do it, as much as I want to bet Roman, and I think Roman's going to go out there and knock him out, you kind of just don't know what John Allan you're getting. So a little bit more about that last fight. John was a huge underdog to Mike Rodriguez. He was like plus 325, and he cashed. It doesn't matter. Like, by the time the bookies have paid you, by the time he gets popped for tamoxifen or whatever, it's too late. You already made that money. So all kinds of people are just cashing on a big over 3-1 underdog in in John Allan. He was doing a great job in all aspects. He's putting the striking on him. He was getting a standing guillotine. He was winning the wrestling against Mike Rodriguez. He ended up catching a catching a knee to the cup, and Allan was writhing on. It was one of the worst low blows I've seen in a long time, at least in terms of like the effect, the reaction. Allan was writhing, rolling around, screaming and yelling on the ground for like the full 5 minutes. It was really rough.
God.
It's like you kind of just have to throw that fight completely out the window, because you don't know how much Barry Bonds steroids was in that fight and how much that was, actual John Allan improvement that we've seen. Before that, his last fight before he came in the UFC in Future FC, he got a second round knockout against Alexander Silva. Jabs and overhands, just like we talked about Roman doing. Round 2, he's looking for counters. He's tossing out some low kicks. He's tossing out some jabs, but it's really just to try and entice the firefight, to try and entice the overextension so he can counter. Silva wasn't really doing much, so finally he had to start pressing the action a little bit. He gets Silva backing up. Silva's trying to throw kicks, and he gets him up against the cage, and he just throws like 6 or 7 heavy hooks that start landing. Silva stops doing anything. He puts his hands down. He's just trying to duck and weave and trying to survive. And John Allan just keeps throwing those heavy hooks, and and he throws 8 more, and 3 or 4 of them land, and they just absolutely melt Alexander Silva. Alexander Silva's not that great a fighter. What you can take away from it is that John Allan made a nice adjustment when he wasn't able to do a good job of bringing the fights towards him and countering. Because Alexander Silva just wasn't doing anything, he said, fine, I'm going to back you up against the cage and throw hooks. And that was a good performance.
Yeah.
Before that, he lost, to Vinicius Mojeda, and that was on Dana White Contender Series. And not only is it bad to lose to Mojeda, but it was just a terribly unimpressive loss as well. Mojeda's lost, he's fought some good fighters. He's lost to Paul Craig, Alonzo Minifield, I believe. Eric Anders. I was trying to think who was Antonio Hoyo was supposed to beat up a couple weeks ago until he missed weight so bad the doctors wouldn't allow it. Eric Anders. He's Eric Anders beat this guy. And Vinicius Mejia just put it on John Allan. It's kind of contradictory, because I want to talk crap about his submission defense, but his submission defense looked good at the same time. He was in like an armbar that was so deep. It's kind of like Luana Pinheiro, like how deep that crazy armbar was that like almost makes your stomach turn. He was in an armbar, vicious, bent backwards for like 30 full seconds, and he got out of it. I was like so impressed by him. But then Vinicius Mejia gets him in this triangle that's not even tight. Like the foot is not even behind the knee, not even close. I thought, I was just amazed when he tapped to this triangle. So, very lackluster performance against Vinicius Mejia. So, what's the takeaway here? They have very similar styles. The weigh-ins are extremely important. You gotta wait. I almost guarantee that one of these guys misses weight. You really want to wait and see the weigh-ins. I lean towards Roman. If everything was clean and on the up and up, or if everyone is just able to take steroids and do whatever they want. Either way, like if it was a level playing field, I'd be heavy on Roman Dolidze. I think he's the better fighter. They both do the same things, like I've said 10 times, but Roman's better. But you just really got to kind of wait. I think it's a pass. I think it's a good fight for DFS. I know you're about to, but not to jump the gun, but I think there's a high likelihood that one of these guys is going to get knocked out. But it's also, they have such similar styles, like they might just mirror each other, and it might get into something of a mesmerized stalemate where they don't know what to do, and they're both like waiting for the other guy to press the action, and they might be in there talking smack for 15 minutes and not throwing anything.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have high exposure to this fight. But the winner has a good chance of winning by finish.
Yeah. And if you do want to get in on that on fantasy, it is 8,700 for Dolidze and 7,500 for Allan.
So I think that's Dolidze, I think that's a little overpriced. I think that's a little expensive for him, even though I like him a lot. I think he's a better fighter here. I think he's got a great future in the UFC. I think that's a little expensive. I think there might be value on John Allan at 7,500.
Yeah. All right. I think that does it for Allan versus Dolidze should be an entertaining one there. Anything else you want to add on this one?
Hope you guys found this helpful. We did so much freaking work and prep to make this possible, so I hope it was helpful and hope we're telling you things that you don't already know.
Yeah. And make sure you do tune in to that.
Turn up and tune in. It's
Turn up
everything.
and tune in to that show on Friday, the post weigh-in show. Very important stuff there. And yeah, thank you guys all for watching, and we will see you next time.